You're watching the Tesla Life live with your host, Mark Hovland.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tesla Life number 408 on the 23rd of April, 2025. And lots of news this week. But first, I'd like to welcome our guest, not our guest, well, I guess there's kind of a guest. Casey Green is with his new daughter on there she is. Is she asleep, Casey?
Yeah.
She looks slumped over your arm.
Yeah, she was complaining, and I just gave some back pats.
Ah, I see. I see. Well, welcome, Casey. Casey's in the Mid-Atlantic and has been with us forever, and certainly welcome his input. Also, someone who's been with us forever, we have Mr. Patrick Connor from the West Coast. How are you today, sir?
Hello, I am doing great. I love this time of year. The free kilowatts are just raining down on the solar panels. We don't have to have the air conditioning on. The cool thing, I was looking at our power data from yesterday, and the only time we were on the grid was about 1 to 2 a.m., and that was it, other than when we were feeding the grid in the afternoon after the batteries were full. So, yeah, it's a net positive season. It's quite nice.
Yeah, ours has been okay, even with all the rain and everything. The rain brought the temperatures down, so we could not have to use the air conditioner. And the Model X decided it wanted to take an interior bath.
But yeah, I mean, like today,
pop a door on its own.
It did. Moto and I went out to go get the mail, and it's like, all right, let's go for a ride. And I'm like, not today. And usually when we go back inside, it closes. Today it decided it wasn't going to do that. Then it sends me a text. It's been raining for like an hour. Like, hey, one of your doors is still
no.
Yeah, and I've even got a couple of integrations that I guess I just didn't notice that actually track the weather where it's at, and they would say, "Hey, rain is approaching, and a window is down," or "Rain is approaching, and a door is open." They don't always do it in service mode, but even then, they usually tell me, "Hey, hope it's inside." But because it's
first world problem that your doors open automatically for you, and sometimes at the wrong time.
Most of the time, it would close on its own, but something made it decide not to close, and thankfully, there wasn't too much infiltration. I did have to put a lavalier mic in the baby sanitizer. Hopefully, maybe it'll not be rusted. But probably too late. Thankfully, it's just a lav mic. And the rest of the car wasn't too bad. I've got it on defrost at least until it turns itself back off again. Hopefully, that's enough for that. We'll see.
But yeah, I love this time of the weather is so great here right now. It's what 22C I think is about 72 Fred. Yeah. So and a nice sunny cool day. Went for a walk with the family, and then it's just good times.
Yeah, got the proper temperature for maximum solar. Got some sunshine, and it's not too hot. So
exactly.
Doesn't get the panels overheated, and you're going to collect as much as you can during the day for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get on to the news. Of course, Q1 2025 earnings call just happened recently, as you probably are aware. And Patrick's got some details of what he took from the earnings call. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, the earnings call this time was a little more boring than usual, which is fine, which the market seemed to really like. There was so we've talked about how they posted their delivery numbers a couple weeks ago, and they were lower than a lot of people expected, and how the reasons behind that, the changeover of the Model Y. One of the things that they talked about on the call, which was interesting, was there was a while in February and early March where they were sold out. They could not make Model Ys fast enough, because they had gone through this changeover and started making the new Juniper edition of the vehicle. And it was also interesting that they were able to change over a lot faster than other manufacturers typically do, and yet they still had this problem. And their inventory was down to about 2 weeks worth of vehicles at one point. And you want to have 30, 40, 60 days worth so that you can handle all the logistics of getting the vehicles where they need to. And instead, they were at one point completely sold out. And so that was really kind of interesting to hear. If you have a vehicle that's not in high demand, you don't have this problem. You can just make some extra, take all the time you need while those extras are being sold to switch over. But this is one of the best-selling cars in the world. And so the fact that they went through this transition and were able to come out with it and still have a profitable quarter was very impressive. And that's one of the, if you look at all of Tesla's history, right now it's in a really weird spot. There's a lot of people that are mad at Tesla because of Musk's activities in Doge, which is something he addressed on the call. I'll talk to that too. With all of that happening, they still had a profitable quarter. So the market was pretty happy to see that. And there were some concerns that they might not be profitable. Musk said something like, Tesla's had many times when it's near death's door. This is not one of them. They have, I don't know, 40 billion in the bank or something. So they can address some, if there's issues with tariffs or whatever, they can work through those without an issue. So yeah, that was, I said I'll address the Doge stuff. He started out talking about Doge. That was like what he opened the call with, which I was just like, oh, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? This is not supposed to be about that. This is supposed to be about Tesla. And so after going through the justifications he had for participating in it, he got to the relationship to Tesla, which is he's going to be stepping back from Doge. So that was nice to hear. And of course, he said he'll still be available if the president needs him, and that he wants to continue to work with the office, and but it'll be on a much reduced basis and not the full-time activity that he's been giving it. It'll be 1 to 2 days a week. So that was nice to hear, and hopefully that calms down some of the Tesla takedown protests and all that stuff. So yeah, considering that they had all those protests going on and the vandalism against this dealerships, stores, service centers, and the to come out as they did, I was very happy to see that. So there were a lot of stuff that they talked about. One thing that was interesting to see, as a lot of the their OEMs are backing away from EVs because of the Trump being in office, and he's relaxing a lot of the mandates. Well, that just means that they still have to buy, if they're not producing EVs, they have to buy regulatory credits. So Tesla actually sold 33% more regulatory credits in Q1 than they did Q1 of last year. And this is something that should be going down over time, right? As more OEMs make more EVs, but instead they're just going to continue to pay Tesla. And how dumb is that, to pay your competitor cash because you don't want to do something in a market that is a growing market that's going to be the future of transportation? So this is like Blockbuster paying Netflix. And yet they're doing it. This is Kodak Film paying Canon or Nikon or whoever.
And it's not like they haven't had time to think about this or consider what their actions are or what they could do differently to maybe reduce the amount that they're paying out. They've just decided to bury their heads in the sand and just continue with the status quo.
Yeah, so dumb. But I mean, how long have we been saying that they need to actually look at what the future is going to be and start working on products, even if they're just doing it for R&D purposes? The people who buy EVs love them. These and a lot of them say, I never want to go back to gas. Why wouldn't you want to make a product that made your customers that happy? So I don't know. It's so dumb. The other thing that was interesting on the call is their mega packs. So one of their sales, I think the number was 64% or something like that, higher than last year. So that's great to see. They're having a lot of growth in that area. one of the things that Musk said that I found interesting is that so the power demands continue to go up, and you can either build a new power plant, or you can continue to use the power plants you have at a higher utilization. And anytime you have an asset, if you can use it at a higher utilization, that's just smarter money. Right now, they have to ramp down a lot of their power plants at night because there's lower demand. Well, instead, if you have megapacks and you keep it running at 80, 90%, and you charge megapacks, then when you have that higher demand during the day, you can discharge the megapacks, and that way you can keep your power plants running at this capacity and yet deliver more to the grid than you would have otherwise. So once the utilities are starting to figure this out, that it can do energy buffering, it can allow them to better use the existing resources they have, the existing power lines they have. They can put them where the old coal plants were. That megapack sales are going to continue to do very well. So yeah, that was my big takeaways from it. There was another one that I found interesting. There were people asking about the robotaxi launch, and will they be monitored or supervised remotely? And Ashok answered that and said, yes, they will have some level of monitoring. It will not be doing direct safety interventions. What it'll be doing is if the car gets stuck, it'll give them a route, and then the car can follow that route to get out of the stuck situation. So it's not going to be like you actually have somebody with a remote steering wheel and pedal to control it. It's going to be a much lighter touch than that. So that was an interesting one. They also made a big point to clarify the difference between robotaxi and the cybercab. So any of their vehicles can be, maybe not the semi, a robotaxi. That's just when it's in that mode where it's on the network, picking up passengers. It's a robotaxi, and then the cybercab is a specific form factor that is made especially for that market, but it's just one of many that will serve that market.
Yeah, so we've often talked about them using the words interchangeably, or
Yes.
as we thought from the outside that maybe that was going on, but obviously there's some thought put into what the definitions of each of them are, and it's good to get clarification on that.
Yeah, it's funny though, because they made that clarification, but then I think they actually slipped up a couple times and it still used them in the wrong. After saying one means this and the other means that, and they're closely related like this, they still. So I don't feel bad if I slip up every now and then.
Because they haven't got it straight either.
Exactly. And then there were a lot of questions about Tesla's lower priced vehicles. When are they coming? And they dodged those questions, because it was as part of the Say question, it was part of the analyst questions. Is there going to be Model Next or Model 2 or Redwood, as the internal code name was for a while? And or are they just going to do a lower price version of the 3 and the Y, where they put in cloth seats and remove the extra screens and do these other things? And they would not even give them an answer, which I think is smart. And we've seen in the past that Musk would always fall for these things because he wants to tell the story, right?
Yeah.
And but they would not Osborne themselves this time, which was interesting to see.
Yeah, that is interesting that they really kept tight-lipped on the whole thing. They didn't want to release any nugget of information that could be used to make a story, could be used to push that narrative. It's interesting that they're just completely being quiet about that entire thing.
Yeah, really interesting.
What do you think that is it an Osborne effect, Patrick? You think they're trying to avoid? Is that why mum's the word, or do you think it just came from Elon that, listen, we're not talking about this and we're not talking about it at all. That's it.
I think he said not to talk about it, and I think he made that clear to everybody. And one of the things he said is that in the future, people won't buy cars, and that may be true, but that's not true in 2026. So, and that's what the analysts are thinking about is, what's going to happen the rest of this year and next year. They're not thinking about 2030 or whatever future date.
They're not even thinking about next year. They're thinking about next quarter.
Next quarter. Exactly. Yeah, you're right. They are definitely short-term focused. So that's what they want to know is this new lower cost vehicle going to come out, and is that going to be a big sales driver and spike, sometime in the second half of this year? So yeah, they just wouldn't talk about it. And I don't know if Musk is particularly dancing around that issue by giving them I gave you an answer by telling you in the future people won't buy cars. That again is not a real answer. That's just a response. There's a difference between an answer and a response. And if they haven't announced the product, they've showed off Cybercab, right? So we know that's coming. They did say that when the initial robotaxi launch happens in June, it will not be with Cybercabs. So it'll be 3 and Ys, and they'll have 10 to 20 of them. And I don't know if they meant 10 to 20, at launch, or 10 to 20 total at the end of the year, or what. It wasn't clear exactly what they meant by 10 to 20. But you have to have, you can't just have 2 out there, and then you're not going to be able to supply too many requests at a time. So it's probably going to be launching with closer to 20 would be my guess, especially if they're using 3s and Ys. They have plenty of those. So
they would have tons of them to use. And there was no mention at all about about using customers' 3s and Ys.
Right.
Unfortunately, one of the questions he ducked.
Yeah. I don't expect that'll be in the first half. I don't think that'll be in this year at all. Maybe next year would be my guess, because they have to have time to work out the system, the kinks, and you don't want to do that with customer vehicles. So
yeah, because you don't control the customer vehicle. You may be able to put on a network, and you may be able to, but ultimately the customer could throw you a curveball by taking the car out of the queue or doing something unexpected. If it's a company-owned car, they'll know exactly what the car will do because they're controlling it in all the circumstances.
Exactly. There was a question about how would they compare to Waymo. And Musk had a quip that I thought was pretty funny.
Oh.
He said their cars cost way more money. Waymo money.
Yeah, and, on that one.
Yeah, that one cracked me up, because if you look at they have Waymo does not make cars. They have to buy a vehicle to start with, and then they equip it with $50, $60, $100,000 worth of sensors and compute, and then the amount of power that requires is incredible compared to the inference engine that Tesla's using all the time, even when you're in FSD. So Tesla's solution is far more scalable. So they'll be able to deploy vehicles faster. When the other thing that they mentioned is that they have regional driving patterns. So that makes sense. In different parts of the country, people drive differently. And so you have to, if you want to drive like a local or be able to deal with local traffic, you have to know what those differences are. And that doesn't mean that you only make it for that area. It just means that there are parameters that can be changed about how aggressive it is or how fast it is or whatever. And how to deal with, we were talking about how some of the crazy roundabouts we have here, and yet it handled them fine. And not that it's going to not know how to do roundabouts in other areas, but it might. There are some that have stop signs, some that have yield signs when you enter them. And those are different in different areas. And it's going to know how to handle all of those, which I thought was just pretty smart. And the weather's going to be different.
That for sure. Also, some they'll still be adhering to federal road standards. They will adhere differently. And
Exactly.
Take, for instance, if you ever go driving in Florida or parts of Georgia, you need to be prepared for people to stop to make a right-hand turn, and they will stop different. In Georgia, there's no warning. They just slam on the brakes and turn to the right, particularly around Savannah. While most of Florida, you'll get a blinker, and then they'll slow way down. It'll take forever and a day, and then they'll turn off slowly, maybe stopping.
Wow.
And then other stuff like that. Like in Michigan, you got to dodge potholes. in South Carolina, people will run red lights for a while. So you gotta,
That annoys me so
here you go.
much when people
Comes
run
up.
red lights. Yeah.
Yeah, but you've got, like Tesla found out, you have to abide by what laws are in the books.
Yes.
When we talked about the California rolling stop, they
Right.
were required to change the programming so the car actually stopped at the stop sign completely.
They still have to comply, but they also have to be able to adapt what the locals are going to do. Because if you
Right.
aren't expecting somebody to slam on the brakes and make a turn into Denny's, you might have a close call.
Right.
You may, but what is the, you can't have a law that says you must stop at a stop sign and then ignore it by programming
Right.
not to do it.
Like the light turns red, the Tesla should stop, regardless of how many other people go through before the other light gets a chance to change.
But again, what about the stop sign?
They did fix it, and which is sometimes annoying when it's obvious that you should roll through a stop sign when it's so totally clear and you're already doing 2 miles an hour and you've rolled whatever. But anyway, they're complying with the law. But the one that you mentioned, Casey, I think is spot on. Okay, when the light turns green, if you don't have visibility left and right, how fast do you proceed into the intersection? Well, if you're in a part of the country where people follow the law, you proceed normally and you go. If you're in a part of the country where people often run red lights, then you creep forward until you get visibility. You almost treat it like a stop sign, and then you go only after. And having it automatically do that to avoid a collision sounds like a pretty smart move. And it's something that would be, regional. And of course, anytime it's going to be entering an intersection, it's still looking at other cars. It's still going to try to avoid collisions. In fact,
but you can weight their craziness up.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. That would be funny. It has a factor of, okay, how bad are the drivers in this area? That's the variable.
Now entering a factor 7 zone.
People follow traffic law here.
Yeah, entering a factor 7 zone. If you drive manually here, your Tesla insurance will go up $20 for the day.
Yeah, they would have a lot of insurance information.
Exactly. Maybe I'll toss it out to the people watching. We'd like to see your comments about what you thought about the earnings call for Q1. Let us know some comments about what you thought happened or what didn't happen or what you were expecting or didn't see. It would be interesting to know.
There is one comment in there. My Hardware 3 car is ready. RC Robinson saying. So I don't think any Hardware 3 vehicles are going to be, so
the vehicle, yes, but not the hardware.
Yes. So on the last call, Musk said, if I'm being honest, we're probably going to have to upgrade those cars. So I think a lot of people that have had Hardware 3 have moved to Hardware 4 when they had the transfer your FSD, and not all of them. And there's also a lot of people that had Hardware 3 cars that have since sold them and moved on to other stuff. Or FSD was not super popular compared to, I think the take rate is probably higher now with the Hardware 4 vehicles than it was with Hardware 3. And certainly the volumes are higher with Hardware 4. So anyway, I think that hardware upgrade is going to have to come out before current Hardware 3 cars join the Tesla network.
Maybe they'll get rid of some of the legacy quirks.
Yeah.
What I call the upsell, lame upsell opportunities, like no remote sentry.
Yeah, it's something that we had saw them kind of dancing around the issue for a few earnings calls, and then finally it was last earnings call where Musk just basically came out and said, you know what, probably we'll have to upgrade those vehicles with a different hardware set. So that's
everybody's like, oh well, you just gotta optimize it, blah blah blah. Yeah, but now you're spending somebody's time to optimize it, wasting some customers' money not optimizing, because you have more customers on the other side who could just hit deploy. And so it's really the best thing for them to do. One system to play against.
Yeah.
Right. if you have an AI engineer trying to shrink the model and cram it into old hardware, who could be helping actually make it so you could do full FSD, take a nap in the back kind of stuff, where's that person's time better spent? And it's on the future products.
Yeah, my car got hardware 3 installed December of 2019. Hardware 4 came out in what, 2023, 2024?
Right. Yeah, mid 23.
Yeah. So how many optimizations would you see on a regular computer between now and then, let alone a custom piece of kit like this? And how far back they had to have designed the one to be ready in 2019, and mine had it upgraded, so there were actually cars getting shipped with it even before that. So,
yeah, that's definitely something that you don't see time stand still when it comes to upgraded hardware, and they don't go back, especially when you're designing intensive software and you're having a hard time making it work in the first place in all instances. So you don't want to try to backwards compatible with a hardware 3, which is going to be much more difficult and time consuming.
And once it meets what they promised, absolutely, go ahead. Hey, you bought the 6-year-old one, you want this new feature, go ahead over here. But the premise of safe, and you can sleep in it, and you can come across the country with remote summon all the way across the country, you can be able to do all of those things before they can say, all right, we wash our hands of these.
Right. I've been really impressed just with FSD in general. In my neighborhood today, I was leaving, and there was someone was having a pod delivered, and the truck that was dropping it off was way out into the street, to the point that the only way through would be like on the oncoming lane where the parking spots were. Right. So it had to go all the way around. And I'm ready to take over. My foot hovering over the brake, hands right at the wheel. And it slowed down, and it just went around the truck and then got over and it took off perfectly, exactly like I would have. And I thought for sure there's no way it's going to be able to handle it. You have to go not just into the oncoming lane, but like past that to where the oncoming lane parking areas were. And it's just going to stop. And it didn't. I was thinking I would at least have to press the accelerator a little bit. It handled it perfectly. And there's no way they could have seen that very often.
No, but they saw it enough. There were two that I'm thinking of. There's a third, but I think I told you guys about where there were police taking up half the road, and we had to take turns oncoming. So the latest two that caught me by surprise. We were going a pretty decent clip on a industrial type road. Just a single lane, like this. Hey, just get into these warehouses, and there were two trucks parked for the night, waiting, to make their deliveries. There was 2 foot of my lane left. Nobody oncoming. It could clear their view. I thought I was going to have to help it. It signaled, kept speed, went around, signaled back, and then it did the roundabout, signaling in the roundabout.
Nice.
This is really nice, exactly. And then another one that got me is near this building. We're pulling out of the driveway. And now that it finally knows how to actually exit the driveway, pull the FSD, tap on the accelerator so it knows it's okay to get out. I can see one of the neighbors, and it can see one of the neighbors getting ready to park his trailer and in the driveway. So it sees him pull up, sees him pass, sees him shift in reverse. And so instead of going out and waiting on him, it takes an alternate route and gets out. And I was like, that is super impressive, because the alternate route adds a couple yards to it, a couple hundred yards, 1,000 yards, but it still would have been faster than waiting on the guy to maneuver the trailer. That's really cool.
Very good. So you guys are seeing improvements, and you're seeing, the ability for it to handle unique situations with, just its sight, and of course its memory and computer backup of what it knows is out there and what are the proper things to do when it runs into a situation it's not familiar with.
Yeah, let's address Lee Moon's comment here. He's toying with the idea of ending a subscription and purchasing FSD. One of the things that the CFO mentioned is that FSD is too cheap. which is interesting. Yeah, so that's a hint that they're at least thinking about raising the price. Usually when that's going to happen, well, I was going to say usually we have warning, like, okay, the price is going to go up at the start of the next quarter. They usually use something like that. There's you can have incentives that are carrots or sticks, and that was more of the stick. Buy it now. So we usually get that warning, but not always. Sometimes we've said it before. If you see what you want and it's available, get it, because tomorrow something could be different. Right. So the other thing that Lee said that is he's concerned that there are some regressions, and yeah, that's going to happen. It's not perfect. It's not the final product. It's not you could just take a nap. So you have to be supervising it. And when they are working on one problem, neural networks can be very tricky. You add some training data to solve one problem, and it has knock-on effects that you didn't expect in other areas. And so then you have to, it's whack-a-mole. And the good thing is, the moles are smaller and coming up less often, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I'm seeing is that my car now, when I finish a drive or it lines me up so I can hit reverse and hit auto park, it actually uses the new auto park from what I see on the new Model 3s and such. It doesn't let you have the new interface, but if everything is set up for the way that it likes that, it will use the new system. Like you can see, the view is not like anything you ever see in these legacy cars. And when it pulls itself in or when it reverses in, and it's exactly what I see on the loaner cars, which is really cool to be able to use it too. But that sort of thing is it's worth it. Like when I bought mine, it's only going up. It's only ever going up, and then it dropped for like 4 months. Yeah. and then at some point it was $15,000-$16,000 for it. Went up. Not only up, it went up.
Yeah.
And with him saying, I liked the way that he pointed out how he thought it would cheap rather than just like bluster like Musk usually does with it. Hey, when the first time you get the experience, you're asleep or on a conference call or just playing games or conversing fully with your passengers, having a side eye out on the street. That's the first time you realize, oh, I'm not paying enough for this, and then got so much time before they start raising the price on you. That's not saying they are going to raise the price. It just
might be an early message that this is going to happen. So yeah, if you're on the fence, really consider it. RC, no, I don't have FSD currently. Never have, not to this point.
We keep trying to convince him to get it just for the summer. Take a road trip, get rent it for a month or two. Try it out. Mark likes his car. He likes to drive it himself.
Yeah. Next thing we know, Mark's got a Model Y with FSD. That's my summer sports car, and this is my everyday car.
Let's move on to a couple other topics before we wrap up the show. I wanted to talk a little bit about the new 10K discount that showed up on Cybertrucks for April, end of April. This was kind of surprising or not surprising. We have been listening to some pundits talk about how that Cybertruck sales are struggling in some way. We've had the release of the rear-wheel drive Cybertruck, and I would venture to say that
Mark.
I lost Mark. Mark, your audio has gone out.
I didn't like what you're about to say. Usually so to mess it up.
It's fun. I keep seeing these articles that have these horrible headlines about the Cybertruck, about how it's a huge failure and they have too many and blah blah blah, and that they're being forced to do these discounts. It is the #1 selling electric truck. I mean, yes, it's not to the level of Model 3, but it's funny if Tesla's truck is a huge failure, what does that make every other electric truck?
Especially those with experience with trucks.
Yeah.
Sting, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
there we go. You're
Okay.
back, Mark.
or where their truck looks exactly like what they're telling us that people want from a truck. And it's like, all right, well, these guys did that, and look what wonderful success they're having with it.
Right.
Yeah,
If
they certainly have been successful with it, and of course the volumes have been increasing.
5.14.1 is that the spring update? Sorry,
But
breaking news.
there is a concern that they're not selling as many as they could be, and maybe that's why we have they're offering a incentive to buy at the end of the month, and they're also offering a rear-wheel drive truck at a lower price point as well. So they're obviously trying to address a market that they believe they could have some more sales in, and it makes sense to do so. We've always talked about demand levers and how Tesla will pull them based on what is happening currently, and they're reacting to real live data that they have at their fingertips at any moment in the day. So this is not a surprise that there may be a little bit less of sales. And looking at Q1 results, overall, we've had a drop too. So not a surprise there as well. So I'm just saying that it is something that Tesla has used that demand lever, and they're moving forward with those type of sales based on what they see. And we may see other demand levers. We know that Tesla must know that the addressable market for an electric pickup could be much larger if they can drop their pricing somewhat or release a model that's still profitable and can hit another group of buyers. So, that's not a surprise that a rear-wheel drive vehicle has come out. It's just kind of interesting that they pulled many things out of the truck in order to achieve that number. And still make a profit. Obviously, they're not making this a loss leader. They're just
they're making a healthy profit. Let's remove from that version.
Yeah. So, but this is an ongoing process, and Tesla, as we've seen in the past, will tend to move the shells around to make it work for them based on what they see in the market at that time.
Yeah, and anything they can do to reduce price, like you said, Mark, opens it up to a bigger market, and that's what we want to see. Is that every EV that gets out there is one fewer gas car that's got a polluting tailpipe. So I'm all for that.
Exactly.
On my sidetrack, sorry. 2025.14.1. If you have a legacy car, where your screen's facing the wrong way, or the original way, you get the spring update. You get alternative trip plans, avoid highways, get your keyboard languages, and minor updates. And your minor updates actually are detailed out. Not just minor. There's like a whole block of them, but it looks like when I see the glance, they're all the spring stuff they told us.
Good to see that they're still sending those out to older Tesla owners. So that's a plus for sure.
Derek wants to know, Mark, if you upgraded your 2.5 hardware that came with your Model 3.
I have not. It's just the same. I'm at 2.5. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, if you purchased FSD, then you got the hardware upgrade for free. Otherwise, I don't know what the charge was, $1,000, $1,500, something like that for the new computer.
It was $1,000 per computer.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're not using FSD, why would Mark? Unless you want to give him $1,000, Derek.
And that's another reason that if I move to that, I know that there's a cost involved in renting it beyond just the rental fee, right?
You're right. Yes. So our plan for have you just do it for a month or two is not quite as that.
I had to buy my computer first.
Yeah.
Darn.
So, did you get the new parking interface and anything like that on Arbor 2.5 or no?
Nope.
Okay. So you've been living a little bit of legacy life.
A little bit. Yeah.
But it's not salty for you because it's like I didn't pay for that shit.
Right.
Exactly.
I never got a feature I never paid for.
That's
Am
right.
I mad about that? No.
But you do get features you didn't pay for. I mean, look at all that was never in the plan.
Another topic to touch upon is that Frito Lay, of course, has a number of Tesla semis, and they have discovered that they need a little bit more charging infrastructure. So they're actually adding some Tesla superchargers to their distribution center in Bakersfield, California. And they're putting a few more in to help with the charging of their semis. And this is not a surprise because obviously they are enjoying what the vehicles are doing for them. It's obviously hitting the numbers they want because now they're increasing infrastructure at that distribution site where those trucks are. And of course, they've probably discovered that we need a little bit more of available chargers because our fleet has been growing as well. So they keep adding semis to the fleet. And obviously, the test has been going quite well for them because they're adding infrastructure. So that's great to see and hear. I'm sorry, Casey, were you saying something?
I said, yes, definitely.
Yeah. So we'll have to keep our eye on that. Of course, haven't heard anything about the public Tesla semi charger that they're building near Long Beach. It wasn't scheduled for anything at this time. We're thinking it's going to be later in the year that they'll start working on the project. But that is going to be interesting to see, and who utilizes it, how many trucks utilize it will be interesting to see. Casey, you seem to have an audio problem where you talk and then it doesn't come out.
Oh,
now it's back.
You make short quips. Oh, I said, yes, definitely.
And
got a quick filter on there.
Yeah, it's just cutting off quips. The other thing I wanted to talk about was this story that Reuters was able to come up with some information from 3 different sources. They claim that was indicating that the new stripped down Model Y, which is what they're calling it, has been delayed indefinitely. Well, not indefinitely, but they were assuming that this vehicle would be released 6 months into 2025. And the talk is from some suppliers is that Tesla has decided to put this project, delay it until later in 2025 or possibly early 2026. And Reuters also found information, again, from these 3 sources about the Model 3 following the same type scenario where it's being removed, things are being removed from the vehicle to get the cost down. So, and we had talked about this in length previously about how do you use the same production lines that the current 3 and Y are on to build another vehicle that would be a cheaper price point, when we got indications that Tesla was actually building something new. They had claimed that no, it's not just another stripped down Model Y or Model 3. This is something different. But the Reuters report, it's kind of shows from what they have found that is not the case. This is an actual stripped down version of the 3 and the Y, and that's how they're getting some price relief or the ability to put it in a different price category in that way. What was that, Casey?
So I've had time to sleep on this one, and I heard his response to similar line of questioning on the call, and it got me thinking: could this be Tesla's Ford and GM moment now, where they have the same frame but a completely different car on that frame, so they can be called a different model without tanking the sales of the Model 3 and the Model Y, because you've got a Cadillac Cimarron, for instance, instead of a Malibu, or instead of a more premium car, and you've cut it down, or not that I expect they'll have different brands, but I think that they might have another model with the same bones as the existing vehicles. I don't know if they'll feel stripped down or the way he was discussing it sounded a little bit like they might jump the 3 and the Y to this new thing as well. But if they don't do that, then they could literally have a stripped down 3 or Y, give it different skin and different interior. And as far as other manufacturers are concerned, that's a new model, even though it's the same frame.
Yeah.
They don't call it the Acura Honda here in the States. In Japan they do, but not here.
Yeah, it's something to ponder for sure. We've also talked about how there have been 0 leaks about this vehicle or these vehicles, if there are two. The article kind of indicates that, well, you didn't get a leak about the robo van, and you didn't get a leak about the cybercab, but yet we did get a cybercab slight leak. We saw that weird looking pickup driving around Warner Brothers Studios before the event. But
and the Bourne is an evolution of the boring thing that never made it out.
Yeah. So there is some, but here nothing. Like it's and maybe that is another reason why it's being possibly delayed. Obviously, Tesla's not saying this. This is the article with them citing 3 different sources, but who knows how accurate those sources are? Because of course they're obviously not published. Because heads would roll if somebody knew who these people were. But
they're likely suppliers.
It could literally be like I said, somehow finagling a cheaper 3 and Y to be new models as well as delayed because his buddy was messing with the affordability plan. So now like, oh yeah, we can do it for this. Oh snap! These come from Mexico. This comes from Japan. This comes from Taiwan. We gotta rejigger this. And now, we're still using the 48 volt snap connectors. We're still using stuff that a robot can put together. But now we have to get our supply chains ready to be disrupted, and that hit what they were trying to hit. They're gonna need some more time. Since it's not under construction yet, they'll need more time to just say, hey, bring those from Canada instead. Bring those from California. Probably not. Alabama. Get it all straight.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we will wrap it for this week. Let's go into shout-outs. Patrick, what do you got for us?
Well, I want to show you guys. Let's see if I can do this screen share here. This one. Yeah. Let's allow this. Can you see that?
Yep.
All right. So coming up this Sunday is our...
Sunday.
That's right. Our Drive Electric Earth Month event is on Sunday. And we're going to have 8 or 9 talks here. And you can see a friend of the show, Brian White. He's giving a couple of them on there. One of them is Tesla Cybercab, Rethink Everything. So, lots of good stuff on here. EV lingo that matters, charging tips and tricks. Should you buy or lease your new EV? There's a lot of considerations there. And also on here, so our group started out with people who did conversions because back in the day, pre-Nissan Leaf or maybe Roadster, you could not just go out and buy an EV. If you wanted to drive an EV, you pretty much had to make it yourself. And so there are still a lot of guys who in the club who do that kind of tinkering. So there's a Fiat 600 that was converted. And here's somebody who rebuilt a wrecked Ioniq 5. And so they're going to talk about their experience turning wrenches and getting that stuff going. So, this is going to be happening on this Sunday. And if you'd like to check it out, you can go to oeva.org, click on the events tab, and get all the info about that. There you go. Thanks.
Perfect. Casey, what do you got?
Coming up in 2 days, we've got our Tesla Life Express Edition 1. Catch us right here, same time, same place. And then on Sunday at about 1:10 Eastern, catch us over at youtube.com/CaseyGreen or at GCustom on X. And on X, we have a side spaces where you can basically phone on in. And that's kind of fun. Long time. First time. Then come again on Monday, back here, we will have the Tesla Life Express Edition 2. And that just chatting with Casey and friends will be at about 1:10 Eastern. And then on Wednesday, I'm back here. Catch us live.
Very good, very good. We'd like to thank Lee Moon for the music we use every week. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on the video. Press that subscribe if you haven't, and help out this small channel. We would really appreciate it, and we thank you for doing so. With that, let's get together next time, and we will find out what's happening in the Tesla life.
Stay positive, test negative. Thank you, Lee Moon.